undo. Can we just raise kids without perpetuating trauma? Like, can we be intentional enough? And granted, I know that Maeve will probably need to be, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, because I'm not about perfect parenting. There is no such thing. There are things that I, in my good and intentional heart, will try to do for her, right by her, and we
Yeah.
still miss the mark. So that's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, can we be intentional enough to acknowledge our own personal trauma and not pass that on to our kids?
Yeah.
Like, can we just at least do that? Because by really focusing on healing your own trauma, there's a bunch of crap shit that you won't pass on.
Yeah.
But if you don't even acknowledge that, you're automatically going to pass it on. I'm telling you, these kids are being effed up.
Yeah.
Like, these children out here,
Yeah.
because people don't want to parent.
Yeah.
They want a cute little accessory. They
Yes.
don't actually want to parenting, because parenting is hard as fuck.
Yeah.
Okay? Said it, minced it, whatever
Yeah.
you want to do.
It just encourages others to join us, but as Black Girl Tea, that's what I named this. Ericka is. This is Black Girl Tea. Maeve, Erica's 1-year-old child, Ericka and Stefan's 1-year-old child is sleeping, so we have a little bit of time to have some tea. I need to run some errands, but I was like, let's do this right now. But what I want to talk about is our current feelings on interracial couples raising biracial babies, or just parents in general raising Black children that are not aware of how they perpetuate white supremacist thought patterns and ideologies in children, and don't make an effort to stop that in their journey of parenting. You go, because I feel like you have a lot of thoughts on that are really good.
Well, I think that we should say our personal experiences.
Okay.
We're Black,
Yeah.
black, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm sure the colonizer lived somewhere inside of us, because there was a bunch of rapes happening back in the day. So,
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
so there's that. But our parents are both south side of Chicago, grew up not a lot, especially my dad, not a lot. And so their way of raising us was to get us out of those environments.
Yeah.
And because of that, we ended up surrounded by whiteness. We lived and were primarily the only people of color in most every space that we walked into.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yes.
Church, we were homeschooled. Any extracurricular activities, and therefore a lot of our friends ended up being white. And also we grew up in a way where Blackness was seen as harmful. Let me pierce that apart. In order to be safe, you needed to assimilate. That was, I think, the underlying messaging. Not that that was implicit, but it definitely was just like explicit, but it was definitely just like, okay, don't act like that, because that's dangerous.
Right. Right.
And also, you're in a lot of white spaces, so assimilate.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So anyway, so we've gone through our own journey of snatching that Blackness back, and being really proud and owning and standing 10 toes down in our Blackness, and loving our Blackness, and reclaiming a lot of our inherent power as Black women. Hello.
Yeah.
And also, now we're into this like next generation thing where, you know, Erin's an aunt, about to be another aunt for the second time. I'm a first time mom. I'm married to a white man. And I check out my TikTok. I did a whole little series on like the reconciliation that needs to happen between Black and white people, specifically when in general, but especially when you're in an interracial relationship.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, raising biracial children. So for me, I think really deeply about things. That's just my nature. I'm always just like, but wait a minute, what about all these other extra things?
Yeah.
And I don't find that a lot of people think about that, like the implications of raising a biracial child. You know, like for me, oppressed, my husband, oppressor, like just our ancestorage.
Yeah.
And Maeve, oppressed and oppressor, living inside of her.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
Yeah. I know.
What?
Yeah, we don't think about that.
And the fact people are not talking about it, so you have these little biracial babies just out here.
Yeah.
Just willingly out here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not exactly accepted here, but accepted here because of colorism, but not accepted here because they don't know their blackness. But it depends on and it's also very different if they have a white mom or a black mom. And people don't like to do that, but it's different.
Yeah.
Depending on which parent is black, it's different.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I don't know if that's because, like, in this whole American society, moms tend to take on the weight of parenting, right? There's, we could talk about patriarchy and all the terms, all that implicates as far as parenting roles, which we're trying to also, like, tear down.
Yeah.
But moms, in a traditional way, in a historical way, have the most influence over their children, right? They kind of set the tonage, so to speak, depending. A lot of times when in the interracial relationship, the mom is not the black parent, there is a lacking of understanding in blackness and the importance of that biracial child being connected to their blackness because, everyone, in a lot of spaces, they will be seen as black, and a lot of, you know what I mean? Like in some spaces, they won't, but then how do they navigate that? So there's this lack of navigational tools for kids, and they're just kind of like sometimes the messaging is, we don't see color. It's like, that's false.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just actually harmful to the black child. Like that, those type of like placated kind of like mutual, like just kind of like wash away views on race are never helpful. It's only helpful to the white parent to make them feel okay about their whiteness in proximity to their black child.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's never helpful. So anyway, with my husband Stefan, and even with Erin and I having conversations. Well, you and I don't know who I was talking to before, but you and I having conversations about what that means as Black women, and me raising a child, you being an aunt, and then us about to become aunts. Me a first-time aunt, you an aunt to our brother's
auntie,
biracial child.
Aunt such a
auntie.
Yeah.
Whatever, Erin. You're very specific about that. That's fine.
I am.
You're really auntie, aunt. Whatever. I don't know. It's just like it just needs to be talked about, because I feel like a lot of times, when the mom is not the Black parent, a lot of things just kind of go astray. It can go astray if they're not intentional. But people don't want to be intentional, and a lot of mixed race babies, parents had mixed race babies because they wanted cute kids. Like, it's so toxic. They bring the toxicity of their race relation into a child. It's like, bro,
and
that's
the
so
parenting
sick,
of
you
the child.
A cute kid.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you completely, go ahead.
I am personally tired of the lack of desire for people who are not Black, especially a Black woman, people who are not a Black woman. I am tired of their lack of drive to understand the Black female experience and then relate to either me or other Black women from that vantage point. Because the lack of knowledge of understanding the Black female experience in America is like perpetuates ignorance and behavior and toxicity and harm.
Toxic, bro.
It's like,
so toxic.
Guys, like Black people and Black culture has been saying the same thing for 400 plus years, and I would also argue that the language has become better and the words more clear and the definitions more accessible than ever before. So your lack of understanding is inexcusable, in my personal opinion. It's inexcusable that you don't understand what it is like to be Black in America, especially a Black female. I am.
And it's it. Yep.
I'm tired of seeing the way that I grew up being perpetuated in other young black
the raising
children.
Of kids.
The raising of kids. Tired of it because Ericka, I'm like so hyped about this right now because this is my life. People don't understand the amount of money, the amount of emotional and spiritual currency I've had to accumulate to heal from white supremacy. Go ahead.
Let's talk about accumulating that currency and then spend it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Those are two separate steps.
Yes.
Both weighted.
Yes.
Continue.
And I am tired of people, they don't understand how much money we've spent on therapy, how much money we've spent on figuring out our trauma, coming face to face with our trauma.
Resources.
Gosh, the amount.
And emotional currency.
Yes. And all of that.
Currency is almost more than money.
Yeah. Yeah. And the amount of work we've had to do to gain the language, right? To even talk about these things.
Absolutely.
To even have to explain it to ourselves within our own community, but then even outside our community.
Absolutely.
And then you're actually raising a child that is the version of me I'm trying to heal from.
Undo. Can we just raise kids without perpetuating trauma? Like, can we be intentional enough? And granted, I know that Maeve will probably need to be, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, because I'm not about perfect parenting. There is no such thing. There are things that I, in my good and intentional heart, will try to do for her, right by her, and we still miss the mark. So that's not what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, can we be intentional enough to acknowledge our own personal trauma and not pass that on to our kids?
Yeah.
Like, can we just at least do that? Because by really focusing on healing your own trauma, there's a bunch of crap shit that you won't pass on.
Yeah.
But if you don't even acknowledge that, you're automatically going to pass it on. I'm telling you, these kids are being effed up.
Yeah.
Like, these children out here.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to parent.
Yeah.
They want a cute little accessory. They don't actually want to parenting, because parenting is hard as fuck.
Yeah.
Okay? Said it, minced it, whatever you want to do. It's hard. It's really hard. Mm-hmm. And so people don't want to actually talk about that. They want like these cute little mixed babies, talking about specifically my experience. Mm-hmm. They want these cute little mixed babies with this cute little hair. But here's the thing. I'm starting to do hair in the place that I work. One of the women that is the co-owner, and she's amazing at doing hair. She's almost made a career out of fixing little mixed kids' hair because they're white moms, don't know how to do it, but won't humble themselves enough to get help before the kids have traumatic hair experiences. Yes. So they see it going away. Yeah. You can see it going away. The hair is locking.
Yeah.
Okay. People
lock.
Dreading. Okay.
Yeah.
And just so that we can get that out there, if anyone that's watching that doesn't know, we don't call it dreads anymore because the colonizer gave us the word dreadful. Mm-hmm. That's why we're called dreadlocks, because they thought it was dreadful. So we don't use the word dread anymore. We have locks. Just let's
the hair is
kill that.
Locked.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. Okay. But the white moms won't humble themselves enough to get help before the child's hair has locked. Yeah. And then it's these little I'll give you an experience. 4-year-old twins in the salon for 5-6 hours. Wow. First of all, a 4-year-old can't sit that long anyway. Yeah. But talking about trauma, hyperventilating, crying, because we literally have to comb out locks like my hair.
Yeah.
Locks.
Wow.
And it's like, if you would humble yourself enough to be like, you know what? I am raising a biracial child. This child is part of this child I don't even understand. Yeah. And I need to humble myself, as mom would say, humble myself enough to be like, you know what? I need help. Hey, can you help me? I don't know how to do this, or I would love to learn. There's no excuses. At the very least, there's YouTube. At the very least. Yeah. Okay. But there's also plenty of resources and things like that. Anyway, that's what gets me the most, is the lack of willingness to do the work. Yeah. It's the like, they're so, or in the Christian community, they like to just wash it all under the blood of Jesus. So that's it. So there's the Christians and white supremacy they're really fighting for top position.
Yes.
White supremacy's, I guess it's white supremacy. Yeah, white supremacy says, part of that sector says we don't see color. Like, that's their new age white supremacy. It's like, we don't see color, which is just as harmful. So stop that.
Right.
Christians say, well, we're Christian before we're black, or we're Christian before we're any race. It's all under the blood of Jesus. Wow. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Because the ramifications of race, although it is a made-up construct, we are still living under the ramifications of race in our daily lives. So to completely try to say the blood of Jesus covers, it don't. Let me help you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it don't cover that I'm getting paid, what's the statistic? 65% less than white males?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something outrageous.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. Go Google it, okay? It doesn't cover the fact that however we're more likely to be killed by the police. It doesn't cover the fact that X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not covering.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it's giving Christians, is giving me just trying to like get out. Like, everyone wants to put their hands up. Nobody wants to like get dirty.
Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting to me in light of everything that you just said is this cultural movement towards mental health. And you cannot deny the conversation or where the conversation will lead us to, especially as Black people. On the topic of mental health, racism is at the crux. Like, it's at the center of all of that. Like, you can't have a conversation on mental health, mental and emotional and spiritual health with people of color without talking about white supremacy, racism, patriarchy, misogyny, like all of that. Absolutely. And the intersectionality of race within it. You can't. But
and
because
that goes both ways.
And it goes both ways. And because Christians and people of faith are so desperately trying to avoid the conversation, you start to make up what mental health actually is for people of color, and you start to create another world of that, which I just think is interesting. But that's what gets me so fed up and literally angry, because I see myself and the amount of work I'm having to make and do and put in when it comes to showing up fully as myself as a Black woman in spaces, especially as a pastor, especially as a spiritual leader, especially as one who's spiritually responsible for the spiritual formation of people and how they show up in the world and how they view their religion and Jesus and politics and how they interact with people in the world. Like, that is a responsibility that I carry. So when I see, especially people that I know, raising their children and also discipling people into deeper versions of white supremacy in the Christian space, like in the faith world, in the religious world, like, it's like so disheartening, because like what it literally means is that I'm watching people build up what I am literally trying to tear down with my bare hands. I'm trying to dismantle white supremacy, and you are building it up. I'm trying to deconstruct patriarchy, and you're building it up. I'm trying to burn it all down, right? I'm trying to, let's restart our faith, because it's been built on white supremacy for a long time, and I'm trying to reclaim my theology. Thank you, Brandy Miller. Reclaim my theology from white supremacy, and I can only do that by naming these things and talking about these things and having a different perspective and point of view when it comes to my faith, and also being Black, and how Jesus is a liberator, Jesus is an abolitionist, and Jesus has always been a liberator. Jesus has always been an abolitionist, and that is the point of view that I pastor. That is the point of view that I'm a friend. That is the point of view that I'm a sister. That is the point of view and the perspective from which I'm a daughter, and all the different roles that I play. And the wife. Like, that is it, right? But like, people don't see that, and it literally makes me angry that people are perpetuating people in a system that is going to be harmful, because one day these little Black girls are going to wake up and say, I'm not white and I'll never be white, and I have taught me to want to be white, and nobody's saying that.
That's the highest. But they because they've replaced whiteness with Christianity, with God. Like they're so interchangeable in those spaces that's when it becomes super toxic. It's already toxic, but it becomes super toxic when you can't even pull those apart. That's why it's so harmful for young, impressionable minds that are forming.
Yeah.
Like these kids are forming, and they're learning that whiteness is at the same level as Christianity.
Yeah.
Love for Jesus is whiteness.
Yeah.
That is what they're learning.
Yes.
That is what you are teaching them.
Yes.
Who are their mentors? Who are you putting them underneath? Are they not seeing any people of color?
Talk about it. Talk about it.
That
It's true.
But I'm putting them around people that love Jesus. Who gives a fuck if they love Jesus? If they don't have the same lived experience,
My God,
there's nothing. That's the point.
Yes.
Like that. And I'm off of the. For people, I'm coming from the perspective. I'm not a pastor, but I'm coming from the perspective of burn it all down and start again.
Yeah.
Like I consider myself a spiritual person, but I do not buy into this American version of Christianity, and I don't subscribe to it. So that's where I'm at.
And
Love
also,
you, appreciate your ministry.
just to reclaim that a little bit, I mean, yes, you don't have the title of pastor necessarily, but I still see you as that because you're literally responsible for the formation of children under the church Kaleo Phoenix, which is where I pastor, right? Like, so you are literally.
And guess what we're doing? When we coloring, we're giving them little brown markers to color Jesus. These are the ways in which I'm pastoring.
Hey, these are your
brown.
color options.
Don't tell your parents.
Black, brown, or dark brown. Take your pick.
Period. And go talk about with your parents. Period, poo.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But that is what people are doing. They're like, but I'm putting them under a really spiritual, like it's like they put that higher than their cultural race importance. And unfortunately, I think in an idealistic world, like that all sounds juicy goosey. Like, yeah, I'm a Christian first. Yeah, the spirituality of my kids is really important. And I'm playing with other people I trust spiritually. That all sounds nice. But in the context of the world we live in, baby, it don't work. And I'm telling you, I'm telling you, most of my great friends were white. All of my close friends, save a couple, were white. And the people that were people of color that were close to me were in the sunken place, like me.
Yes.
And so your children will have to do that work. And I'm telling you, mothers of mixed race babies, if you are not black, because there's some black women that are in the sunken place too. But I'm telling you, it's not as much as people that are not black. So hear me, mothers of mixed race babies that are not black, hear me. You have a responsibility. Get out of your own way. Humble yourself. Swallow your pride. Okay? Put people of color in your children's life. Learn, Google, humble yourself and go to a black hairstylist and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Help me, teach me. Go to your black significant others, family, if you have that relationship and you're able to do that. Ask them questions. Put your child around them. Let them be immersed in their blackness, because baby, you don't need to be immersed in whiteness. That's the problem, is that people of interracial relationship think, well, we got to immerse them in the whiteness. No, whiteness is everywhere. You don't need to be immersed in whiteness. We already are immersed in whiteness. You need to immerse them in blackness, because culture. They'll get the whiteness because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Okay? But they need to be immersed in blackness. That's what they need to be immersed in. So I'm telling you, humble yourself. Humble yourself, because it's pride that's going to keep you from doing the best thing for your child. That's the only thing that's keeping you from doing the best thing for your child is pride. And you need to acknowledge that now. Don't be mad at me.
Don't hate the messenger.
Because honestly, don't hate the messenger. Because guess what? I wouldn't be telling you to do something I'm not doing. I am literally having these deep conversations with everyone that I know. I'm reading books. I'm listening to things. Steph and I, my husband, are talking and re-talking and double talking. I'm having these conversations because I'll be damned if I don't do what's best for my child. And I know every parent wants that, but it's another layer when you are raising a mixed race child and you're not mixed race yourself. I don't know, I'm not going to know Maeve's journey of being white and black at the same time. It couldn't be me. I'm black all the way. She is too. And, right? It's that and. So I have to help her navigate what does it mean to have the oppressed and the oppressor flowing through my veins. To know that my father's ancestors, now my husband is European, so he's not from America, and yet, but still, where did the white Americans learn it from?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So my father's ancestors in some way oppressed my mother's ancestors, right?
Yeah.
Like she has to contend with that. It's weighty, and don't pretend like it's not.
Yes.
Parents, don't pretend like it's not weighty. Don't pretend like putting a white mentor for your black daughter is not weighted. Don't pretend like that's not weighted.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't pretend like that's not a choice, and that you are literally saying this is your mentor.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't care how like what other attributes this person has. That's saying something.
Yes.
It's saying something to your daughter that that's the person that you choose, or your son that that's the person that you choose.
Yes.
And if you choose to have a non-person of color be your mixed race child's mentor, are you doing that with a person of color as well? Is there that balance? Like what are you doing to counterbalance that? Because that says something specific, and that child is picking up the message, whether you want to lay it down or not. You're laying it down, and they're picking it up.
Yeah, everything you just said, gold, first of all. So thank you, Black woman. Thank you. And this is what I'm also realizing is when we as adults aren't doing work to have true healing within the conversation of racism within the world that we live in, when we ourselves don't do any work, we perpetuate who we are in our children and whoever else we're mentoring, discipling, pastoring, coaching, whatever. And when we don't realize, like, what I'm waiting for personally is for 10 years down the road, for these little ones, these people that are being discipled into white supremacy, to wake up and what their journey of healing is going to look like. And I know it's going to look very similar to ours, because that is the version of us that grew up in those spaces. But what does the conversation with the parent look like? What does the conversation with the previous pastor look like? Like, at some point, these little Black and brown children that are being discipled, mentored, coached in white supremacy are going to wake up and say, I'm not white and I'll never be white. So they've been taught to hate themselves. They've been taught to value anti-Blackness, anti-culture, to hate anything other than whiteness. So what happens when they wake up and they realize that they're Black, that they are a person of color, and they've been taught to value whiteness more than they value themselves, like
their own lives?
Like, don't you see what you are perpetuating? Like, how do you not see that? And if you don't see that, I can't rock with you. I can't rock with you like that, because our values are intrinsically different.
Yeah. And that's in this day and age, because listen, people are like, well, are you saying they're bad parents? No, our parents were amazing parents. They did what they did with what they had and the knowledge they had. Our parents were trying to make sure that we stayed alive.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank God we're beyond that.
Yes.
So parents of today, that's no longer an excuse.
Yes.
You're not trying to,
Thank you for saying
your
that.
child in white spaces. Okay?
Yes.
Because I know some people are going to think that. You're not putting your child in white spaces to protect them for their very life. Right? Like there's a version of that. Yes. Still, I don't want to, there's some people that moving outside of those spaces.
Yes.
But as a whole, we've moved beyond that a little bit. Right? And so we have to do better with what we have, right? So us raising our kids is very different than our parents raising us.
Yes.
Our parents were trying to get out of the ghetto. They were trying to make sure that we had better than they had, that we had more, that we weren't living paycheck to paycheck, that we didn't have, weren't having to eat leftovers, like not leftovers, but like scraps from McDonald's.
Oatmeal.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
Exactly.
Every day. That's what Dad did.
So
he only ate oatmeal. Yeah. And meatloaf. He hates all those things
every
because
day.
of that. Yes.
All those things because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to speak to those parents that would say, well, I'm just trying to, because those are the better spaces. It's like, yes, and okay, there's still a way to move your child through the world and allow them to have more opportunities without completely stripping them from their blackness.
Yeah.
And that, in that way, that's harmful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's the lack of wanting to do the nuanced work because, you just have to do the work.
Yeah.
You just have to do the work. And that's not something that I personally have seen a whole lot of.
Yeah.
And it just makes me sad because, like you said, I can show you the receipts of how many thousands of dollars at this point I've spent on counseling. Because, again, America, counseling is not free. It should be free for every Black person.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But counseling and deconstruction and reconstruction and tough conversations and sitting in it, and that's something that, okay, how can I help my kids through that? They have to do their own work, but how can I set them up in a place, in a way where they're not having to relearn their Black identity because we never talked about it.
Yeah.
And the only people I put around them were white.
Yeah.
And granted, they were nice white people, but they still were white.
Yeah.
And so the very way in which they view the world couldn't possibly connect in a way on a deep level, because the way you view the world is completely different.
Yes.
And you can't not acknowledge that.
Yes.
It's not we don't see color thing. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Anyway.
Good. Okay. This is beautiful. This is perfect. And this has been a conversation of Black Girl Tea. This is just me and my sister talking. This is what we were talking about earlier on the phone. And we just wanted to bring it to you in real time. And I've been recording this so that we can put it on our Patreon so you can watch it later. But this is another, I guess, episode of Black Girl Tea, just sisters hanging out. And we love you guys. Thanks you for joining us live. And we will talk to you next time.
Hopefully with better video quality.
Hopefully. We'll figure it out. The more we do it, the better you get. So there we go.
Yeah.
Peace out, y'all.